the things that you like to do as a kid may be something that's a hobby or a passion or something you want to pursue as an adult, which is hard because they usually don't fit into the regular confines of society, because you don't usually want to be an accountant when you're, in 5th grade or something.
Hey, got something really cool I wanted to run by and let you know what's going on. So I'm starting a group that will start taking a deep dive into each one of these episodes. So we'll collectively come together and talk about the shows, talk about the guests. I'll be bringing back some of the guests to do some Q&A sessions and really take a further dive into their story, their journey, the episode, talk about, maybe some of the things you wish I would have asked on the episodes, do some Q&A sessions and the like. As a friend put it to me, it's really like a book club, but for the podcast. So a couple times a week, we'll go in, we'll break down the favorite shows of the week, and have cool discussions around everything that we've heard, we've learned, and want to know about their journey. Some of these guests will come in and they'll teach part of, what makes them awesome at what they do. And then, as always, I'll be providing regular value and content in this group. It's really cool because this only is going to cost $5 a month to join this group. And you'll be able to come in, interact with everybody else in there. So I'll put a link right in the show notes for this that you can jump in, come have a conversation with us, and we will really deep dive into each one of these episodes and help us all rise up together. Thanks for tuning in, guys. It's going to be a great show today. Having the show wasn't something I started out to do. But the day I found out somebody wanted to really sponsor the show was a really, really cool experience. So, guys, I want you to take some time to go check out Point Blank Safety Services and their new nonprofit, Blue Family Fund. These guys are doing some really, really cool things. And Stacy McGovern, who's the CEO over there, has been a dear friend, and she was a guest on the show. But these guys are literally taking, the off-duty officers and putting them out in security guard role. And here's what's cool about it is, as they're protecting our lives, they don't make a whole lot of money in that regard. No first responders are paid for the value they provide for our safety and our health and taking care of us. So these guys, Stacy and her team over at Point Blank Safety Services have really found a cool way to give back to these officers by helping them provide an additional income so they can continue to support and protect us. So do me a favor, guys. Seriously, go check out pointblanksafety.com and then go look at their nonprofit, which is Blue Family Fund. Now, this nonprofit was created because of the success of Point Blank Safety Services. They wanted to give back to the families of fallen officers and be able to give scholarships away to the families of current, police officers. So do me a favor. It would mean the world to me if you would go out and help support this show by supporting Point Blank Safety Services and their nonprofit Blue Family Fund. Just tell them Donnie has sent you. You heard it on Donnie Success Champions, and Stacy will take a tremendous and amazing care of you. Thanks, guys.
All right, guys, I'm really looking forward to this episode. I'm bringing you JoePhelan, and you're going to hear me screw up his name a couple of times. And the dude's been working with me now for a little over 3 months. We've been doing a lot of things together. But Joe handles all the editing for my shows, but he's into some really cool things. He's had a cool journey and a cool ride. So sit back as we laugh at each other. I make fun of him a lot. Pretty sure I call him a pee-wee bouncer at some point. So it's just a fun episode of talking about him, his journey, snakes, and all kinds of fun things. Enjoy this one, guys. All right, guys. For me, this is going to be a fun episode. So I'm bringing you JoePhelan, man, and this is a guy who edits every one of my shows.
Wait. We have to start over because I need to tell you how to properly pronounce it.
Well, say how you say your fucking last name.
Phelan, like a test. Like you in high school.
You know what? We're leaving that in there. So everybody, I'm bringing you JoePhelan. JoePhelan. Dude's been working with me ever since I started this show, and I can't pronounce his last name. All right, we'll start over just for you, honey.
Oh, no, so it's going in. You know that, right?
I love it. All right. But this is going to be fun. I'm going to have fun picking on him as we go through this. Dude's doing some crazy things. It's really kind of a wild story how him and I met each other. So just be forewarned, guys, we're going to talk everything from his transition out of the military. Snakes, get prepared for that, which is something I never thought I'd talk about on the show. But it's going to be a good ride. So, Joey, honey, sweetheart, welcome to the show, my friend. Tell us your story.
Thank you, sweetie. It's been a hell of a time working with you, bringing this whole podcast up to where it is now. But I guess we can go back a little bit. As far as me, I've been – I just said a
So one of the things he said, guys, he's going into this, he goes, this is going to be the least edited show ever because I don't want to hear myself speak. So I kind of have this goal to see how many times I can get him to screw up. So he has to listen to himself.
I'm so screwed. But I've been kind of an entrepreneurial kid since I was in 7th grade. I started my own T-shirt company, and I used to rollerblade. And it sounds silly now. It's called aggressive rollerblading, but it sounded cool in the 90s.
Is that like roller derby?
No, it's like tricks. It's kind of like the skateboard version of just on rollerblades.
Okay, all right.
So I did that, and then I had a bunch of friends that we used to make like skate videos. I started this clothing company to where I sponsored kids like from all over the country. I would send them like a free shirt, and then they would send me clips of them doing whatever trick, and I would put it in, and we made like a couple movies. So that's kind of where the entrepreneurial stuff started, as well as the media stuff, which is what I do now. So it's not like I just jumped into media one day. It's something that I didn't know was going to be my thing, or I didn't recognize it because I was too young to realize what's going on. And plus, you always have your parents saying, hey, you're going to go to college. You're going to do this. You're going to do that.
Go get a real job,
Yeah, that was never a path. They're never like, yeah, you should definitely take that T-shirt and rollerblading, making videos with your friends thing. That's not really a defined path in life.
Tell me those videos are somewhere, though.
Oh, man, I've been trying so hard to find it. We had actual DVD copies somewhere. There's physical copies because back in the day, you don't put, like – that big of a file on any cloud or anything. Clouds didn't exist. So someone has a DVD somewhere, hopefully, with a magic marker on it that says quasi apparel, whatever.
Dude, I so wish you had that because I was like, get that thing on YouTube. We're putting that in the show notes for everybody to see the talent of a 7th grader, making rollerblade T-shirt commercial videos.
The talent of our skill in the video as well as the editing, I'm sure, is something.
Just over the top.
Yeah. But from there, I did end up going to college. I went to the University of Alabama. I went for 2 years. Coming up in my sophomore year, I was really just not into school. I realized when I went to college, I thought that I was going to get this finally, like a real life applicable knowledge, right? But really, I just realized I was memorizing more definitions, even more than I did in high school. And then they're like, yeah, after the first 2 years, you're going to start doing more defined coursework and you're going to learn so much more. But I always seem to be ahead because I liked self-learning. There's YouTube and all that stuff. I seem to have more drive than I could wait for the teachers. And that sounds self-serving or something.
But this is definitely your video for all the colleges to use to send your kid to college because this is what they're going to learn.
Yeah. So in my second year of college, I was just like, I need some type of meaning. I don't know if it's meaning in my life, but something more than what I'm doing. I need some type of applicable life skill. And I thought at the time, like maybe I would be a police officer. So that's when I signed up for the Army. And so I left Alabama and I went to basic training, Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri.
You went into the Army because you wanted to be a police officer? Who does that?
Well, as a 20-year-old, you can't go and apply to be a police officer. Most of the places, you need to be 21 and you need to have like 2 years of coursework.
Right, because to be a cop, you got to be able to drink. I get it.
Yeah. I mean, there's just certain requirements there.
Right.
But I thought that would make me more appealing to, whatever department I was going to, or it would at least give me the opportunity to say, hey, I like this. Hey, I don't. It seems like when you become a police officer, that's a certain commitment for a certain amount of time. You don't just go there for a year and realize it's not for me.
Right.
So I wanted to do the military in order to kind of gain some of those skills as well as challenge myself. And plus I was kind of lost in life and everything like that. So I ended up coming back from basic training, and then after that, I looked into the police officer thing. I almost moved to West Texas to become a police officer. I had the interview and everything, and all I had to do was go out there and do the in-person interviews and take all the tests. But then I decided, I had a girlfriend at the time, and I was like, I'm either going to stay with this girl and go to college with her or do something or find some type of job, or I'm going to pursue this thing in West Texas.
Is this still the same girl you're with?
No.
Oh, all right, good.
But, I mean, I still don't regret that decision at all. I ended up going back to school, and then I ended up a year later dropping out because I realized back when I was also into snakes when I was a kid too. So there's a bunch of things as an ADD little kid. I mean, you get into all types of stuff. I still get into all types of stuff. So you find, at least what I found to be true for myself, is that the things that you like to do as a kid may be something that's a hobby or a passion or something you want to pursue as an adult, which is hard because they usually don't fit into the regular confines of society, because you don't usually want to be an accountant when you're, in fifth grade or something.
Yeah. Nobody raised their hand in third grade and said, I wanted to be a salesperson. I mean, that's not a thing. So, but I understand where you're going with it.
That's something that life kind of falls you into, which I did as well.
Right. If you're unemployable in any other thing in the world, you end up in sales. I mean, that's all there is to it.
Yeah, you're like, I think I could talk to someone, and I mean, maybe some people make money at it and all that. And so anyway, I went to college, dropped out again. My mom cried and everything. But when I was dropping out of college simultaneously, that's really when I got into like self-learning and stuff like that. And podcasts in particular were a huge thing. And then also, of course, getting into the snakes. And then I was working for a company that was selling products on Amazon, and we were ramping up that. And then I eventually became a manager of their shipping, and we basically sold, when I first got there, we were at like $100,000, and then we were pushing like $1 million within a year. And I was getting comfortable. I was in Oswego, New York, not exactly a hotbed for pretty much anything. And then luckily for me, my girlfriend cheated on me. And then
score.
Yeah, it was, it wasn't just something that came out of the blue. It was a culminating thing that, 6 months of going through shit ended in this event that finally allowed us both to break free and do whatever we want, kind of. It was a way to break it off that neither of us, I think, could do it ourselves.
Sorry to say, so what Joe's saying, he wasn't man enough just to walk away. He had to let her go do something really stupid so he could get the courage to say, I'm done with it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I was busy doing other things, But that gave me that defining moment where it's like, okay, I'm going to be managing this shipping department, even though this does seem a little promising in how we have gone over the past year and the growth involved. But do I really want to be in Oswego, New York for the rest of my life?
Where is Oswego, New York?
Oswego, New York is on Lake Ontario, on basically the border of Canada and New York. The only thing that borders Canada is that lake. And the lake, luckily how it's set up, it just dumps snow on you from basically October to April. It is not a great place.
No, it doesn't sound like fun at all.
No, and there's a
now
reason why.
Thanks, Joe. I just lost all of my listeners from Oswego, New York now because of you. Thanks, buddy.
Don't worry. They barely have internet. They're not listening. Sorry, guys. I loved living in Oswego, but I decided that I was going to cut my ties and I was going to move to Colorado, which is kind of just a random thing. I decided, hey, I'm 22 or 23 at the time. I'm going to take a chance and I'm going to go somewhere new, and who cares? What's the worst that could happen? You know, I don't have anyone else to, I don't have kids. I don't have any other significant others. So it's just me. Went out to Colorado and got a job working security in a psych hospital. So I spent Tuesday and Wednesday at the emergency room doing psychiatric holds. So basically what happens is people come in, cops bring in people who have psych issues or drunk people or people on drugs, and you get to babysit them for 24 to 48 hours.
Joe, you're not a big dude.
Exactly. I want to get to that because, all right, I work with dudes maybe your size, dudes who are 6 foot to 6'4", 200 to 300 pounds. I am 5'7" and 170 pounds. Who did those guys fight when they wanted to get out?
Right.
Me, immediately. And then not to mention the fact that we didn't only run that area of the hospital. We also did things like transport bodies to the morgue, put bodies in bags, and bring them down. And so it was basically – but it was something that was paying me decent as a 22, 23-year-old kid. But it came to a point where, I do a lot in my life to keep myself fit, like physically. And the first time that I really lost control of, and I meditate, especially at the time, I don't do so much. I'm not great at doing it now when my life is busy, which is probably when I need it most. But I thought I was always I never reacted to things. I've seen things and done a lot of things and never reacted to them. But one night I just woke up after doing my job. I woke up in the middle of the night, like with the vision of the body that we brought down that day in my head. Like the movies, like came up on a 90-degree angle, like breathing heavy. Like that was in my mind. And then I realized that maybe I don't have so much control over that. And I think there's people who've been on the podcast and people listening now, veterans that clearly have much more experience in this than I do. But all it took was that one little thing to make me, and that's never persisted again. That's just something that happened once. But I realized, oh, damn, I can't control this 100%. Like, you like to think that you're always in control, but quite frankly, you're not. And so from there, I decided can't.
Hold on. So You're literally playing Pee-wee Bouncer and, wheeling bodies down to the morgue. One, freaking kudos. I may call you a Pee-wee Bouncer, but dude, I could, and I hate when people say I couldn't do that job, because the truth was, put in the situation, anybody can do that job. It's just a matter of being in the situation. But, I wouldn't raise my hand and say, put me in, give me that job, right? Laying in bed at the middle of the night, and then all of a sudden you get that vision that's so realistic that freaks the shit out of you. I mean, we've all had dreams. We know we've all had things, but sometimes those dreams get so damn real. I mean, you can feel like you're in the moment and you start seeing things that didn't happen. Is that basically what happened?
No, I saw just exactly what happened, which is what I hated more so than I guess the other. It'd be different if it was like a dream-like state. It was just me transporting back into the moment and it replaying. And it didn't affect me in the moment. That's what was weird. And I realized that I'm not actually taking care of this. I may be putting it back more so, and maybe it will come up in the future. So I decided, maybe I shouldn't exchange $16 an hour for my mental health. And I mean, there's still people who do that job every single day. There's still first responders who do that job every day, whether police officers, EMTs, even nurses and doctors. I mean, they deal with that stuff all the time. So, but I think it's important to say this is for me, this isn't for me. And that was at that point where I was like, okay, I got to do this. I got to move on. But luckily for me, my moving on was going into a sales job that was basically like run you in the ground, go all out every single day, like Wolf of Wall Street, but not the Wolf of Wall Street money, which is the worst part.
Right.
The mentality is kill them all, we'll sort the bodies out later, make money,
Right.
But you're not actually making money, but you still have that kind of mentality, the douchey mentality that comes along with it.
So was it right?
Meat.
Was it full bullpen style? You know, you got the room of guys, you got a deck of phones, and they're just
yelling.
Yeah, it's cranking and screaming. So I know people see this stuff in the movies, but they don't realize that shit's real. Yeah. They're called bullpens or they're called the pit, just depending on which company you work for. And I've tried to train in a couple of them. And what's always amazed me about those particular rooms is you got all the guys screaming and hollering and doing the hoopla. You got one jackass manager over in the corner who's not on the phones or anything else. He's like, all right, boys, kick it up a notch. I finally walked over, and the one I walked up, I'm like, why don't you get out here and fucking call some people? He's like, no, that's not my job. I just manage. I'm like, all you're doing is yelling at these guys. Get your ass out here and show them how to do it. He walked in and closed the door of his office. So obviously he wasn't cut out to do the work. His job was just to motivate.
Well, that's why you move up in a sales job, right? So you don't have to do that anymore.
Right.
Over that, you don't want to mess with it anymore. So it's like, instead of being the mentor that maybe you should be face to face with everyone or besides them, you end up being some guy in the office. And I'm sure, I mean, my manager was great at that time. My boss at that time, he was great. But it was something where I was a logistics broker. So basically, we would cold call people, try to get their business. And if we got their business, I would say, give me $800. I would try to find a truck for $500. And then I pretty much the company got $300 and I got peanuts maybe if I'm lucky. And so, but it was also like people are always calling you on lanes for trucks. And then you do the whole like, even if there's no one calling you, you put on the ringer and you're like, oh, this lane's blowing up. Give me 1 second. Go on hold. And you're putting everyone on hold and you're bullshitting, trying to, it's legit like the boiler room stuff.
Right.
It was fun, but you end up, I was making, $35,000 and working every single day. I had Sunday off most of the time, but we were working from, 5:30 a.m. to like 7 p.m. and stuff like that. So it just one of those things that wasn't worth it, but it also gave me the idea of I was always entrepreneurial, but I never knew actually how to sell. So
well, I think a lot of people go down kind of a lot of those paths, and I think people who end up in the entrepreneurial world end up taking jobs before maybe they take the leap to do what you're fixing to say, is learn that skill set to help them in their career.
Because I think you look from the outside looking in and you say business comes to you. That's what it seems like. But really, you go out there, you are one-on-one touching everyone. They say it's a contact sport. That's a shitty sales term. But, you have to go out and get business. Business doesn't come to you. And I realized that, hey, you could call someone and ask for business. Or like how I met you, I emailed you because we were both, you find that point that you're a veteran. So I mentioned the fact that we're both veterans and also that we were featured in this online article. So I said, hey, I'm a veteran from the same area you're from, and I was also featured in this article. And so that's how I connected with you, right? And I don't think people realize that that's kind of how business works. That was a cold email, and it turns out that we've been doing business together for however long. And we already trust each other because we know that we're both veterans.
Right.
And that doesn't work for everyone. But.
No. And to put it, full spectrum is, we'd only exchanged a couple of emails back and forth, found out you were into videography, that I was doing that speaking engagement out in Dallas, and you're like, well, I'll just bring my stuff. That was really how everything kicked off is, you were looking for some exposure, and wanted to ride my coattails of success. So, you were coming, no, I'm just kidding. Wasn't that bad. Right. But that you're right. I mean, and I tell everybody, take whatever you're into and go find people like that. Right. Veterans, it's easy. You find another veteran, you're like, hey, fucker, what's up? And it's that instant bond connection. You have something to talk about. But I don't care if you're into chickens. I don't care if you're into farming, whatever. Go find other people, and you'll find a really cool instant connection.
Yeah, and I think people's way to do that is often you hear, go to so-and-so meetup, go to this, go to that, which – I mean, I guess, but you really want to find someone who's a little bit further along than you are, maybe not so far that they don't want to talk to you, but far enough to where you can learn something. It's hard when you go to those meetups and everyone's at the same stage usually. They're just getting started. They're trying to sell each other, which is different because maybe that may be your market. Maybe you're trying to serve those entrepreneurs or beginning entrepreneurs. For me, I do commercial videography. It's kind of silly for me to go out and be talking to, lower, I don't want to say lower level, but basically companies that are not within my market. Yeah. Never mind what I just said. All right. I got final edit on this. Maybe, I could take that out.
No, you're not. Because I will save the original. And when we put it out, I'll put out the original. Hell with it all.
It's not lower level. It's just people at a different part of the process, because obviously you don't. And I'm at a lower part of the process myself. I won't deny the fact that I started doing this full time when I talked to you, and what was that, maybe 5 months ago or so?
Yeah.
And that's really when I quit my job.
I mean, just to give you an instance, the show is not even a full 3 months yet.
That's crazy.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah.
We're 75 episodes in as the recording of this right now, and I'm right at the 3 month mark. But wow. So crazy. So let's jump into the chaos of, you do the videography, but the only thing that I give a shit about, and I know my listeners, because you said it a couple of times, I said it a couple of times, how the F and hell did you get into snakes?
So I've always, growing up, I was in the perfect age group to where Steve Irwin really kicked off when I was a very formidable team. Yeah. I was very formidable at that age for him to come along, and everyone was enthralled with him at that time, right? Especially kids. And that's kind of where I got a peek into it. But then again, my dad was keeping snakes since the late 70s. And so he kind of got back into it via that, and kind of that became our thing between the both of us. So my dad, keep in mind that my dad always pretty much maintained 2 full-time jobs when I was a kid. And unlike Gary Vee says, that's the greatest thing his dad ever did to him, I don't exactly have that exact sentiment. It takes a certain person to be good with that. And we didn't have many things, but that was kind of our thing. And we were able to go because the reptile show was right actually where he worked, right down the street from where he worked. So we would go to the reptile show. We would go and check out snakes. And then, once I got into high school and I found out what girls and beer were, I definitely was not into the snakes as much. And then go back to when everything settles down a little bit and I get into, after basic training and everything, I get more into snakes, and then that's really where it took off.
Okay, guys, let me explain this. When he says he's into snakes, the dude is really into snakes. I mean, I had somebody reach out to me, wanted to be on the podcast, and so they said they had snakes. So I sent a thing over to Joe, and I'm like, hey, check this out. Let me know if I should bring this guy on the show. And Joe went through, and he went into this 20-minute diatribe on how this guy breeds snakes and why he's doing it. I'm like, dude, I just want to know if I should bring him on the show. But dude, you raise, you breed, you sell, you do a podcast, you got a YouTube channel. all about snakes.
Yeah, I guess I should maybe paint a better picture. So about a year before I went full time in the videography, I started a YouTube channel. I decided if I'm going to do it, we're going to go all out. I did YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, all that stuff, have a website, everything. And I decided I'm going to put out a video on YouTube every week. I'm going to do a podcast every week. I don't care what happens. I don't care who dies. I don't care where I am. That stuff is happening every week. And I've done it. I'm not going to say that it's been amazing. I'm not going to say that it's changed my life, even though it has. But it's not the answer to everything. But I also realized that I wasn't getting any happier if I had 5,000 followers instead of 1,000. I just realized that I needed to go deeper into showing people my animals and showing people in the videos. Well,
and here's a huge point that I want everybody to hear, because the way I started my podcast was I was going to do a daily one. I'm not trying to one-up you when I say that. What I'm trying to say is you walked into your show saying, I'm going to do a weekly, show on YouTube. I'm going to do a weekly podcast. I think a lot of key to whatever people define as a success is going in knowing that they have to commit to that level of, I'm going to flip and do this. And I love the fact that you said, I don't care who dies, because as crazy as that sounds,
I did a show on Christmas, all right? I don't care. Did a damn show on Christmas.
Joe, that's because you have no soul. I mean, that's
yeah, maybe my family hates me or something. I don't know, but I did it on Christmas, damn it. And that's my pet peeve, is when anyone hits me up and says, hey, how do I start a YouTube channel? Hey, how do I start a podcast? You don't ask me, you do it. And you do it consistently, and you don't stop. That's how you do it. And so I've been doing that. And what that opened up for me as far as the podcast is, I talk to people that probably I have no right to talk to, as far as people who are way, way, way above me in this game. But I have some type of clout just because I speak into a microphone.
Yeah, well, not above you in life, just above you in like knowledge of snakes and other things that you're aspiring to be.
Yeah, I'm talking about, there's this woman, Kathy Love. She is probably, in her 60s. She's been breeding corn snakes since the 70s, since it was hard to breed corn snakes, which is now very different. We have different means. But it's like she has 30 more years of experience or 40 more years of experience. She's written books. Who am I to be talking to these people and gaining knowledge from these people? Well, luckily, I get to do it and then share it with other people like me who want to hear it. So, and that's pretty much my vision for everything. And it also, as you probably know from your podcast, just you get this level of connection with people. I do my podcast for 2 hours face to face with people. And then after that, if something pops up and they know I like something, they'll show me, and we end up doing deals because we met through the podcast, right? Or they buy one of my snakes, or I trade them snakes, or, there's just, it all coincides and it all works together in this way that has improved my business exponentially.
Well, and here's the trick. Couple things is one, when you finally find that thing that you can geek out about, and then for you, I know it's some of the video work, you love doing that stuff. And I know you just love every day editing my podcast. It's like the thing you live for. But, and you're totally into the snakes things. And, there's a lot of what you said earlier that we tend to go back to what we knew as a kid, and that becomes a thing for us, right? So it was the making the videos and playing with snakes. Why anybody play with snakes, I have no idea. But, that's become full circle, but you've turned that thing that, and I don't want to say the word passion because it's overplayed, but something that you're genuinely into, something you enjoy, and it's not that you set out to make money off of it. You've just turned that into a platform where you can talk about it. You could wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and somebody says corn snake, and you'll be able to do a freaking 30-minute dialogue on a corn snake. I don't even know what the hell a corn snake looks like.
I am saving people's time by not ranting. I'm like holding back my rant on snakes. It's hard for me to hold back, but I know that, there's a place for that. And also, I think that I wasn't stupid enough to say I'm going to be a snake breeder full time and I'm going to ram that into the ground until it works. Yes, I'm doing that, but at the same time, I had the vision to pivot when I realized, someone's going to pay me for a video. I wasn't going to say no because I'm a snake breeder. I said, hell yeah, because that's going to give me money that ultimately is going to feed my snakes or allow me to get more snakes. So why wouldn't I do that pivot? I mean, you can't be so tunnel vision that you don't see opportunities around you. And, in the beginning, you have to say yes to almost anything. That's just how it goes.
And dude, that is so awesome. Is so many people get stuck in that one lane, that one train of thought, and they make the mistake of making their passion, I'm trying to get away from that word, their passion, their full-time income. And what happens is they end up losing their passion because they don't know how to run a business. They don't know how to sell. They don't know how to do all the things that you need to do to turn it successful, when the universe a lot of times is knocking on the door, giving you opportunities to bring in revenue and income that allow you to keep funneling your passions. It's so good on you for recognizing that, there's other ways to get to the end game, whatever that is for you, and along the way. And, thank God you met a guy like me that could, employ you on a weekly basis.
Right.
I'm really curious. How many snakes do you have right now?
So, a gentleman never counts his snakes. That's just how it works.
Is that like some unwritten code? Dude, I can't.
No, that's how you keep the girlfriends at bay and wives at bay. You say, I don't know, it just fills out one room. I won't expand. Now I'm in like 1 1/4 rooms and slowly taking over another room. But and it's also, you get to the point where you're like, I can't really count babies. They're small. They're just hanging out. I'm going to sell them eventually. But it's over the century mark at this point, so over 100.
So at what point does it become hoarding? I'm just curious because I've got Tammy coming on the show and she's a hoarding expert. So if you need help, I'll put you in touch.
I think that's important to realize that there's a very, very fine line between that, because I have seen and I have been to people's houses who say that they're into snakes, and then you see that they have a lot of animals that they got very fast that they're not housing and keeping appropriately. That's the thing. When you start having animals that are sick in the same room as animals that are not sick, that's a whole big – hygiene is a giant, giant deal in snakes, especially when you're dealing with colonies. So it would be the same if you had a farm, right? You're going to take that sick animal, you're going to quarantine it somewhere else so it does not affect the herd. And also you're going to keep it in enclosures that are clean, and you're going to keep a number of animals that you can handle. If you can't handle the amount of animals, then there's no shame in you selling off, part of your collection per se.
Well, and that totally makes sense to me because, we have one of our chickens that literally lives with our goats. It was a very submissive chicken. I'm trying to be proper. And I have 2 roosters. And that just became the favorite chicken. And she got so beat up. And,
I see what you're saying now.
Right? Yeah, you catch me? That we literally had to remove her from the chicken coop in the chicken run. And now she lives with the goats. And she's happy as can be, content and everything else. But if she gets up close to the fence by the roosters, she completely freaks out and will start losing her feathers. So we've had to really do a lot to keep her away. I mean, it's just she's not sick. It's just it's a mental thing for her, which is weird because chickens are dumb, but smart enough to do that. So totally get it. And
once you stop losing that touch with the animals as far as what's going on in whether it's your snake collection, whether it's your farm. If you start losing touch with that, that's where you're going wrong. That's where that slippery slope starts. Just stop right there.
Right. So I'm curious. You love the video work and you have fun with that, but I know your real passion lays in doing the snakes and making that your thing. Are you going to be the next Steve Irwin? I mean, you're going to get that cool accent and everything else, or?
No, I think that's also another thing. I don't really thrive on attention, even though I'm kind of everywhere. But I made it a point to where when I began YouTube, when I began the podcast. It will always be about the snakes. It won't be about my personality, because if it was about my personality, no one would watch.
Well, then, Joe, why'd you beg me to be on this show? You're like, dude, God.
I think I was a little bit of a shoo-in on this one.
Guys, the only reason I let him on the show is he told me he would edit this one for free. So
it's not even true. This is, this gives me more business.
Right? No.
We can do multiple podcasts. It's all right.
So I mean, you just did a big move. You moved out of Texas up to the Northeast, and you had to take all your snakes with you and everything else. I'm not even going to go into what happened when you first got there, but that's funny as hell.
Let's do it.
All right, well then you tell the story. So here's it. Joe is supposed to be editing some podcasts for me, okay? And he's a little bit behind. Some things had happened, and I knew he had just moved. And then he sends me the text. What's the text say, Joe?
I'm not sure exactly what your text said, because there was a lot of texts and emails and everything going on at that moment. So we packed up from Dallas, and it's really hard to move with animals, especially with as many animals as I have. And so I got to make sure that the car is the right temperature. Everything's set up. I need to make sure that I get him into the house at a proper time. And so I drive straight through. I make it in like 25 hours or whatever, lots of Red Bull. And when I get there, I can't just go in and sleep. I need to take all the animals out, get them into the house. But while I'm doing this, I'm realizing that there's something weird going on next door, and I can't really put my finger on it. It's 8 a.m. in the morning, and people are outside, and people are in questionable clothing and shirtless and all types of crazy stuff. So then I had to email my realtor and ask her if the house next door is vacant. It's not. And basically what happened is we moved into Philly without sight unseen as far as the neighborhood goes. Very nice place, a nice row home, everything. But it was right next to a crack house. And I don't mean like people occasionally do crack there or there's a few sketchy people. I mean there is an operation. There is a man, an enforcer that oversees the block who I met. I used to call him Big Daddy. And then there's Crazy Eddie who sweeps the street. And then there's another lady who cleans inside the house. This guy's got all these people working for him. And essentially we can't stay at this house. I was like, my girlfriend, I told her, you're staying in North Carolina. You're not coming anywhere near her or near here. And I'm going to figure this out. So we basically had to move out immediately. Did more.
I was trying to find the text, Joe. I'm scrolling through my phone and I can't go back far because you and I have so many conversations. But basically, guys, I literally get this text. He's like, "Dude, I'm trying to get internet up at the house, but I literally just moved in next to a crack house." And I'm like, "What?" And he's literally telling the same thing he's telling you. He's telling me this. So I'm like, why don't you just go take care of yourself and maybe I'll edit one or two. So if there's a couple of shows out there that suck, it's because I came back in and did the editing on them. So it's not Joe's fault, but
yeah, I wasn't going to have the cable guy come out to set up internet in that house. I decided, we're moving pretty much immediately. And I mean, here we ended up moving pretty far away from that house, unfortunately for my girlfriend who has a job in the city, but we're in a nice place now. Everything worked out. It was just a month of utter hell. Just to add to, I guess, my whole life of unfortunate events. And my whole funnies.
Yeah, dude. But dude, you're doing well. I mean, you got a lot of good things going for you. You're helping my business tremendously, which I appreciate. But things are really starting to click for you up there. A lot of things are moving. You're getting a lot of video gigs. You're getting, So one thing I'll tell you guys is, because he won't shamelessly plug himself, I will. If you're looking for a podcast editor, dude, he's freaking amazing at it. If you're looking for a video guy, he's freaking amazing with it. If you're looking for some random ass cornhole snake or something, he's your guy. Where do you think all this is taking you, though, bud? I mean, really, where are you going with all of it?
There's a thing about life that I've found out in my short years, that I can plan as many things as I want to, but there is just so many obstacles that pick up, and you got to be willing to go off the plan. So I do not have a set in stone plan. All I want to do is get better. I want today to be better than yesterday. I want this month to be better than last month. I want this year to be better than last year. But I kind of micro win the day. That's all I care about. So all I want is to keep on maintaining the fact that I do what I love for a living at this point. It's not always an easy living. It's not always you don't work a day in your life, because sometimes it does feel like work. And sometimes it's a grind, and sometimes you're miserable. And then there's other times where you're happy. It's like if you're not bipolar, being an entrepreneur will make you bipolar because of how fucking crazy it is.
That's the God honest truth. I can't tell you how much I've learned, running my own business, and it's wild. You want to get punched in the face by life? Go start your own company. So, dude, I gotta tell you, you know how I end these shows? You get to listen to every freaking episode. So if you're gonna leave my freaking audience, all these champions that listen to the show, with a phrase, a quote, a motto, a slogan, something they can carry with them on their journey, especially when they're going through the dark, creepy places that have snakes, what would be that quote or motto you would say? Take this with you.
You are not surprising me, so don't worry. But there is one thing that I heard from a friend of a friend, and it's always assume positive intent. So that is super important, I find, in social media. If you're going to put yourself out there, you're going to have people messaging you. You're going to have people, and if you're doing sales, you're going to have people messaging you. And social cues are lost in text, right? We all know that. It's different. We're looking face-to-face right now. That's different. But things are lost in text, and therefore just assume people are meaning the best for you in most things. Don't be a sucker, but for your own personal well-being, your own mental stability, just say, hey, I'm sure that person means well. And if they don't mean well, then I'm sure there's something worse going on with them than they could ever affect you with. And that's particularly important if you're on YouTube and the trolls are out.
Yeah, and that is actually sound advice, because I know I've gotten myself a lot of times into trouble from text and everything else. Somebody says something and I reply back with, what the fuck? And, they're like, was just sending a text. I didn't mean anything by that. I'm like, shit, that was on me,
Does
right?
Donnie hate me?
Right. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I send texts and people are like, dude, I didn't mean it. And I'm like, dude, that's just how I talk. Lighten the hell up.
We are both sarcastic, so doing that through text can sometimes get really confusing. And I understand why people would be offended sometimes, but it's like, I'm sorry, man, I didn't mean that. I was either kidding or didn't mean it in that way, or that's just assume positive intent.
I love it. That's awesome, brother. Hey, man, seriously, thanks for coming on here and doing this. I knew this was going to be a lot of fun. I knew we were going to laugh. I knew I was going to make fun of you tremendously. Just thanks for what you're doing. Thanks for, putting out the content and the things you do out there, man. I really appreciate it. Thanks for helping my company get better, and keep kicking ass, dude.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you thanks.
Don't edit that out.
I'm going to start all over again. Thank you. I appreciate you having me on, and I appreciate being a part of this whole process, being a part of the podcast. Also, if you guys could check out my podcast or anything like that, if you're into snakes or anyone, hit me up on Facebook or Port City Pythons, pretty much everywhere.
And we'll put all the links, guys, for everything he's in down bottom as well. But it is Port City Pythons. That's what it's on Instagram and everything else, all right?
Right. And I hope I didn't ramble, because I have, on your own podcast, you don't get to talk a lot. So I'm letting out all my speaks right now.
I got you. Don't worry. So, and, I'll tell you what to edit, so it'll be fine. No kidding. So, all good, brother.
You just tell me everything to do, right?
So the great thing about having Joe do the edits of my podcast is I don't give him any direction at all. I'm like, just go. He does some video work for me. I don't really give any direction. I just go. I trust the guy. He does such a phenomenal job that I'm completely hands off. All I do is sit here and record, and I upload them and go. But Joe takes care of everything else in the back end. It's freaking awesome. So.
And learn that through the military. I don't want to go to daddy and have to solve anything. I was a squad leader, and anything happens in my squad, I squash it there. and daddy never finds out.
Right.
You know, the platoon leader never finds out. If he does, then we're really fucked.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I go about my whole life and business. And I don't want to burden you with my questions and little minute things. I want to get it done, see what you think, get your feedback, and adjust. That's all.
So, no, I love it. I love it. And that's why, I love working with veterans. It's just, just get it done. So, well, dude, keep plugging, keep grinding, man. Keep rising, dude. Really enjoy it. Thanks, brother.
Later.
You know what, guys? Really, thank you for listening to this episode. I really appreciate it. It's a lot of fun putting these together. I wanted to make sure before we get out of here that you knew what we were doing with social content. What we found was because of the podcast, we have a unique way of helping you get your social content out on a very easy way. What we're doing is we're interviewing people, and from that interview, we will capture a lot of information that will then be turned into videos, memes, articles, all things you can use for your social content. I know, like for me, one of the biggest struggles I had was, what do I put out there? What do I say on a regular basis? Well, we'll help do all that for you. So if this is at all of interest to you, reach out to us and let us help you grow your social media channel. I can tell you I did this for my business, and my social media is completely taking off. My Instagram, since I started doing this, jumped to over 10,000 followers, and it continues to grow. So if this is at all of interest to you, check the bottom of the show notes for the link that says, "Get my social content done" right now.